Good morning, everybody. It's not just the ice beverage, which I've already drank, but it's also the hot beverage that I am drinking now, too. We are getting the extra caffeine because last night, started getting texts from my sister, who she's married to a firefighter in our village. And they were called out to a local McDonald's, which is just across our village line, so not in the village of Ballston Spa. And apparently there's a robbery of some sort, and fire department were tending to injuries and everything. So here's what happens. For those of you that want to know, what's it like to be mayor and everything else you ask me all the time, here we go. So the person that got hurt, apparently their purse was taken at the McDonald's. I don't know if it was snatched or, just taken from a table or something like that. She asked for it back, and it was refused as the person ran out the door. She chased to pursue and got run over by the person fleeing. There were injuries, and the craziest part of this is the person that got ran over lives upstairs from me here in the village. Yes. Literally.
No way.
Yes.
My God.
So apparently
she's
the
okay,
person...
though, right? This person who got hit
she's alive. She's alive.
Okay.
I think there may have been a compound fracture of some sort. I don't know for sure, but there were injuries. Whoever this robber was fled by car, obviously, and then ditched the car and fled by foot. And so... hoping and thinking that this person is captured, because it's not our jurisdiction. Okay, it's nearby, but we are not in pursuit. 10:30, I start getting text messages from local news asking me for information, and it's like not our circus technically, but here's a little bit of what I can tell you. And then I found the sheriff's notice on their Facebook page, sent that out to the community. Obviously, it's ignited a worry storm, we'll call it. School buildings have been swept and cleared and everything else as a result, because one of the locations was nearby a school in our school district. So obviously that creates more havoc for people. And as of this, live airing, the person has not been captured from my understanding, but I think they may be getting close to something from what I understand. So hopefully they are able to corral this person in, because obviously where are they going to go if they're just roaming around woods and stuff like that right now? I don't know. Maybe they had other means.
This guy eventually.
Yep. But I mean, literally at 11 o'clock, you get text messages from people or from reporters trying to clear their stories for the 11 o'clock news. And it's like... yeah, welcome to my life. And then, talking to my police chief this morning and everything else, and the superintendent of the school district to make sure everything was going to be okay and all that stuff. It's been a day already. So that's how it works being a mayor. So those of you that want to go into politics and, governance, watch what you wish for in life.
Good luck for you.
Yeah. JB, let's look at some clips here. First, let's take a look at some history being made in the SCAC, and I'll let you fill in the blanks on this one.
And in a moment of special history, taking the field to kick this extra point will be Emily Viasica, the first woman to ever be on a Hendricks football team. She is going to take this extra point, her first of the season. She hails from Phoenix, Arizona. The Hendricks fans excited about this one. It is up and it is good for Emily Viasica. What a moment for Hendricks College. What a moment for Emily. Just a great feel-good story for this here on our homecoming weekend.
Wow.
I'll say one other thing about history. I think that is the first time that a female play-by-play ever got to call a female player in the history of D3, because we've had enough of these clips where we've seen this happen.
Yeah.
And I don't ever remember that happening before. So for the young lady that was giving the play-by-play, I don't think she realized that she was part of history there. That, on top of the history that she was talking about, yes. But, incredible little duality going on there. And congratulations to Emily, as you're saying. Any other blanks I'm missing on that one from what you had seen from that?
No, but that's a great call out that I noticed as soon as the clip played, it was like, oh, wait a minute, there's actually a young woman, doing the color commentary here. And yeah, that's every once over the years, we've heard students sit in on different broadcasts in D3 football. But yeah, I can't recall a situation where, you said both parties, the commentator and the kicker, were both women. So that is a very cool moment. I'm glad we captured it. Well, I'm glad you captured it and got on the show. Thanks to Hendricks, too.
We may turn down the volume on this one, so we may talk over this because I can't guarantee that this is podcast safe. But our friends at Carleton are having a little bit of fun with some of their stuff coming up here. Now, Stackville is keep stacking is kind of their little thing they talk about at Carleton. And
they keep stacking wins. I think they've won 4 or 5 in a row.
Here you go. Callister, St. Olaf, Gusties, and St. Scholastica.
Yep.
Who are our stars? Jack Curtis, who knew? Tyler Diamond, Jackson Watson, Jaden Coleman, Rice Stores, Evan Olds, Spencer Getz, Luke Sigalski, Jake Ranke, Owen Detmer, Eric Lyle, and I missed the last one. Sorry, whoever that was.
Lale, I think it was. Eric Lale.
Well, no, there's somebody else too. But homecoming is going to be versus... Who we got? Come on.
Leave you in suspense.
Hamline.
Hamline, however you say it, yeah.
Yep. So we'll see how this goes. But Carleton has had quite the season. Yeah, they're there winning against the Gusties, and 1 o'clock on the 18th. Great little production there for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, in a more serious moment here, former guest Zach Frank is in this clip from the show that St. John's has put together, the series, I should say. And this one is a little bit heart-wrenching because they had a loss that they experienced over at St. John's, and we send our condolences, but here's more information about what happened.
I would say Boz, he's just the ultimate supporter in life in general, whether it's a Benny athlete, Johnny athlete, accounting student, or just any St. John's student. He was there for anybody and everyone, and that's the kind of person he is. He would stretch his heart out to any person he could, offer them help, offer them support, mentor them, and he left a huge impact on everybody.
The community here at St. John's and the College of St. Benedict lost a major icon, Mike, and a champion of both campuses. But Boz, he wore it on his shirt, accounting. He was synonymous with that department here, and unfortunately he passed away earlier this week.
Nice tribute.
Well, yeah, it was. The Boz, obviously instrumental. For those that don't know, St. John's is actually a brother school to a sister school, St. Benedict, I think it was, over there. So you'll see SJSB in that whole thing. But like Hobart William Smith, they have the crossover scenario there. Just one is, I believe, more the men's school, and one is the women's school over there. So you teach at both potentially, and it sounds like Boz did so. So big loss there, and again, our condolences to them. Before we jump into the intro, and still waiting for a guest to come in, so we got a little bit of time here still, I believe. Let's take a look. We had Thursday night action. We had Thursday night football, and it was not really exciting. Maybe for the first 2 minutes.
Yeah, that game was over in like the first 3 or 4 minutes, because I remember I pulled up the live stats of about 7:20, and it was already 20-0 with less than 8 minutes to go in the first quarter, and did the Anchorman. Boy, that escalated quickly. So
yes, you did.
Thunder rolled, put up 522 yards of total offense compared to 253. Our guy Charlie Grant, our Week 5 offensive MVP, had a tough night. 3 interceptions, and Cortavian Barnett, is one of a couple of Thunder running backs who had big games. He only carried the ball 7 times, but he scored 3 touchdowns. So that's a pretty efficient night for him. I think one of his teammates had like 6 rushes for 2 touchdowns, but 150 yards. So the Trine Thunder just kept it rolling on the ground, rolled up the score 59-0 for a while, and Olivet got a touchdown late. We have 3 Friday night games tonight.
Two. So
Region
Trine's
1.
on the end of that. Yep.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. I could have sworn there was a third. Was there
Didn't
a third
pop
game?
up as because of the change. You're right. But it
there-
didn't get
it's
put
missing.
into the schedule. It is.
Yeah,
That is my bad.
So
We'll
we
fix
saw
that
last
later.
week. We saw last week an announcement by WPI that their game with Springfield had been moved up from Saturday to Friday night. So there are 2 Region 1 games. The first one being UNE at Maine Maritime, so kind of a in-state Mainer special at 6 p.m. And then Springfield will shoot down I-90 to Worcester for a 7 o'clock kickoff against the Engineers.
What time was the
we
kickoff
got
again?
2 of those, 7 p.m. for Springfield WPI. And then the nightcap, number 25 UW Stout versus number 11 Whitewater, 8 o'clock at the Perk. I mean, have there been 20,000+ people go to one of those night games? I assume they've probably done that before, but this game, Stout has gotten improved in the last couple of seasons. They surprised UWO last weekend, so all of a sudden, this team that used to be kind of a doormat in the WIAC is now all of a sudden contender and a top 25 ranked team.
And we're going to get those slides fixed for later. Just working on that right now. The nice thing about AI is you can just do a couple of clicks and whatnot, but the problem is you got to reload all your graphics after you fix all these things. So we'll get that fixed, and we'll hopefully fix up a guest here soon, and we're going to start previewing
Yeah,
games.
I told Dom to show up around 9:15, 9:20, so he's not probably going to log on soon. But we have Region 1, 2, and 3 games to talk about, so why don't we just jump into those?
So it's Friday Live. It's week 7. It's in the D3FB Huddle, season 18. I kind of like the dramatic ending of that. And I think that's what the draw is to me, or for me, on that new theme. Yes, like you and me talking in Houston, and all that stuff, and then boom. Anyway, enough
Back
about
when
us.
everyone's still like this.
Yeah, okay. No, I think that's when Rambo's carving knife started hating us, actually, because we were downright honest, too honest about his North Central Cardinals out there, and ever since. But listen, look, JB, speaking of which, he did coin a name for you in our whole back and forth throughout the season. I think people are getting entertained by just how toxic this BS is with him, but whatever. But he did coin the name Dad Bod Van Halen. And so, who are we to not play to our crowds out there from time to time? So, JB, this week's picture review in our picks of the schedule is dedicated to Dad Bod Van Halen. Here we go. Tell folks about Region 1's featured games.
Oh, my God. That's nice. Well, okay. It does look better than the other one where I'm covering my face up. Well, there are 5 pretty good games in Region 1, and the one thing that I guess we're not supposed to say at this point in the season, but as everyone kind of knows if you follow D3 football, is that once you get to like week 6, 7, 8, 9, there's going to be some games where it's going to be like teams with 4 or 5 wins playing the teams with 0 or 1 wins, right? So finding these matchups where they're actually some competition going on is not easy at this stage of the season sometimes. But Anna Maria, Plymouth State, great matchup. Plymouth State trying to stay in the lead of the MassCAC race. Anna Maria making my sleeper pick look pretty good with a 3-2, 3-1 overall record in the MassCAC. We'll be curious to see how they do up in New Hampshire. This will be a tough game for them, but the Panthers, they're not world beaters. We'll see. Merchant Marine suffered a defeat that a lot of us didn't see coming last weekend, and now all of a sudden their new MAC title and playoff hopes are kind of in the balance here. Like you said in our Crunch Time show, Frank, one loss is really kind of all you can get away with in the days of MPI. So the loser of this game is probably going to have a shot at maybe that Fusion Bowl, but they are not probably going to the playoffs. So this is a big matchup between two 4-1 teams and teams that are trying to stay alive in the new MAC title race. Western New England Endicott, strong C&E matchup. I believe that's game you're going to be attending. You're actually going to do a twofer. You're going to hit Plymouth, and then you're going to shoot down to the North Shore of Boston to catch the Gulls, take on the Bears. Concordia, they surprised us last weekend as well, and so they're in the driver's seat in the MAC. Stevenson, surprised us that they lost to Kings, who hadn't won a MAC game yet. So this is kind of a must-win situation for Stevenson too. Otherwise, they're kind of looking at a MAC Centennial Bowl and no playoffs. Bates. Williams is sitting at the top of the NESCAC with 3 other teams at the moment. Bates surprised Tufts that you saw in person. They have that running back Linsky, who had 4 touchdowns on Saturday night in Somerville. So big matchup for the Eves and Coach Ray. A lot of great action in Region 1.
And actually, we got more to show you here. So if you want to run through these, we did fix the Springfield game while you were talking on this one. So there it is at 7 p.m. Through the magic of AI, we get that fixed. But other things there, I'm looking. MIT Coast Guard could be interesting, obviously, although it is at Groton. Worcester State, Mass Dartmouth. Mass Dartmouth better win that game. Otherwise, it's really been a season already for them. Lepval Widener, you did the call on Widener in their place kicker on Tuesday's show, so we'll see how that goes. But it looks like a basic thing. Alvernia Kings, we'll see if Kings can continue or if they trip up against a team like Alvernia with no wins. It's just been a helter-skelter season for Kings, and I just can't identify who they are week to week anymore. Let's go to Region 2.
Trinity Middlebury is a good game in the NESCAC. That's the Bantam's homecoming game. I think that's a 1 p.m. kickoff, so that should be a pretty competitive one. But most of these, like I said, there's, how sometimes being a dog is a good thing? Well, there's some dogs and not in a good way on that list.
Go ahead on the rest, on 2.
Yeah, so your Sinus is going down to Baltimore to take on undefeated Johns Hopkins, who looked beatable last weekend and maybe should have lost to Carnegie Mellon. The Bears, they suffered 1 loss in conference already to Muhlenberg. That was a game that they could have won, but a field goal was blocked at the end. So this could have been a battle of unbeaten teams. So don't sleep on the Bears. I know that Hopkins needs to get their house in order a little bit, but that should be a good one. That's why I picked it as my game of the week. F&M, Dickinson, strong Centennial Conference game, kind of the undercard, you could say. And, the Dips are, in a way, they can control their own destiny. Their schedule is backloaded, so they have to go through like Muhlenberg and Hopkins at the very end. But they can pick up a win here and keep undefeated in Centennial play, I should say. Alfred has been a little hot and cold. Cortland so far 3-0, red hot in the Empire 8. We'll see how this one goes. I know, with their newer quarterback, some new players in key roles. The Dragons are just kind of getting their footing and they're getting themselves ready for the back half of the schedule. where they still have some big games ahead, including the Cortica Week 11 season finale against Ithaca, who's been looking pretty good and a contender to win the Liberty League. Elsewhere, Salisbury Montclair could be interesting. Alfred State is now in the Empire 8, so that's
I'm going to run you through it just a little faster, and these only for time reasons. But go ahead. Go ahead and bring us through.
Sure. Yeah, Alfred State's now in the Empire 8, so they're playing Brockport. We got Susquehanna back in action. Yeah, I guess if you look at this list, Frank, there's really nothing that jumps out that's that exciting. So I think we should just jump to the next slide.
Well,
Sorry,
the back four here. Keystone Apprentice is apparently a counting game for Keystone, although it doesn't count toward NPI. Don't ask how this gets determined, because at this point we are at a loss on that. William Patterson Rowan's a pre-game for Rowan before Salisbury next week. Keep that in mind. Grove City, Allegheny. Grove City, I'm curious to see. They did not exactly blow out Waynesburg when they played them, so I'm curious to see how that one goes. And Muhlenberg looking to bounce back with McDaniel. Let's go to Region 3. I'll take you through the top half of this. Brevard LaGrange, you've been eyeing this game. You were thinking about actually going to it, but it is the far distance. Yeah. But 4-1, 2-0 LaGrange. Brevard, though, if they want to stay relevant in the USA South, they've got to win this game. And so we'll see how this one plays out. Shenandoah, Roanoke, my game of the week. Because, look, as you say, you wrote this, and I agree wholeheartedly, 7-2 combined for these two teams, Roanoke and Shenandoah. Yeah. But they are relevant right now in the ODAC, but the loser obviously has an uphill battle. If they do lose it, a very uphill battle. Hardin-Simmons ETBU, which ETBU shows up to this game? The one that seemed upstart against Mary Hardin-Baylor but still lost, or the one that blew it last week against Howard Payne? I don't know. We'll find out that answer. Go ahead to the rest on the undercard on this.
Yeah, like you'll see a lot of lopsided matchups in here. Maybe one that could be interesting is NC Wesley and Huntington. They always play each other pretty close. Hendricks, Texas Lutheran, and the SCAC looks pretty interesting. But the rest are, everyone's going to keep an eye on UMHB. If they trip up again to this Texas Wesleyan team and then they drop to 2-4, we'll have to wait and see what happens there.
Couple additional games on that back page. Nothing too exciting. Southwestern Center.
Southwestern Center could be a shootout. That could be a really high-scoring, fun game. Both of those offenses put up a lot of points.
Yep. So you get a little nightcap on that one. Let's go to Region 4, and then we'll bring in our guest here. But the game of the week clearly is the battle of undefeateds in the NCAC in terms of league play. John Carroll does have the one loss, but obviously against Hopkins, that was a great situation for them to play in a game, and played well in that game. It just wasn't enough ultimately against a very good Hopkins team this year. But the winner of this game is in the driver's seat for the NCAC. The loser of this game, if it's John Carroll, they can afford the second loss, JB, but they don't want to have that happen so soon here. If it were to ever happen at all, obviously they want to win every game they've got left. But Rose-Hulman, Baldwin-Wallace is an interesting HCAC situation coming up here, where 1-4 Rose-Hulman is still relevant because they're only 1-1 in the HCAC, and Baldwin-Wallace in the OAC is in a non-conference game still against them. We'll see how this one plays out for one of the very few remaining out-of-conference games we're having here. And Albion is always a good game on paper. I think it's going to play out that way. We'll talk about the rest of the games later. But again, let's go back and focus on this John Carroll game, and tell us more about what your thoughts are on that game as we prepare to get our guest.
Well, this is a nice treat because we're basically getting what normally would be like a first or second, maybe even third round playoff game in week 7. So, John Carroll came over from the OAC, where they were kind of the perennial runners up to Mount Union, but they've had some playoff runs in the past. Always a great program. DePauw has proven to be one of the, I think you can safely say they've been consistently one of the best 15 or 10 programs in Division III in the last couple of years. Even though they had a really painful loss in the playoffs last year. There was that kind of botched touchdown call, if you remember that. I think it was against Hopkins, Frank, that could have been the difference in them winning or losing. And they lost a lot of key players to graduation, but look at them. They're reloading. Yep. They just announced a huge gift of like some kind of $80 million stadium renovation. I mean, like they're going all in. And so we're going to be talking about the DePauw Tigers a lot for years to come.
Well, he's got his camera and microphone off currently, so let's see if he brings it back on right now as we bring in our first guest. He's got to go to landscape also, so he's got to turn his phone real quick for us. But he's on top of this. He knows how to do this because he is that kind of guy. Dom Seibal, and we're going to check the pronunciation of his name as we bring him in here, the senior defensive lineman for DePauw. Dom, first off, I hope I didn't screw up your name too badly. Second off, thanks for joining us. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you? And it's not bad. Everybody says my name wrong. It's Seibal, not Seibal, unfortunately.
Fine. Seibal. We can handle that. We'll just call you Dom from here on out. You know, the Italian
That's
I am.
perfect.
You know, I get a special place for Doms in my life. But anyway, Dom, I was at DePauw last year for the Wabash game, and special atmosphere there that's going to get even better, it sounds like, with what JB was just talking about with the major renovations that are being planned. But DePauw football is something that seems to be rising to the top year in and year out. Aside from the whole debacle that occurred at the end of the game last year in the playoffs, we'll leave that out here. It seems like your senior class is trying to build a legacy there. Tell us about, that legacy that you guys are trying to build and your part in it, because you've been a large part of it. We'll talk about your stats soon, which are actually simply incredible when you look at the whole magnitude of what you bring. You're pretty efficient in the backfield. I'm just going to put it that way, but we'll talk more about that in a second. Tell us about the legacy.
I think our legacy it started our freshman year. We had seen a DePaul team that just wasn't ready to play in playoffs. They just weren't capable of really playing it in that high level of game because we hadn't seen it. But I think building up through my sophomore, junior, senior year, now senior year, we have just been able to see and play in playoff type games. Just like you said, playing Johns Hopkins and teams like Maryville and then Center this year, I think just carrying the legacy and building a legacy that this team is really a playoff team.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, even though most of the times the teams get ranked and all this stuff, they talk about the offense and the points, but you guys have pitched 3 shutouts in your last 5 games. And I look at this as sort of a strength versus strength matchup, right? You got Sempton-Felter, the great quarterback for John Carroll, the offense of the Blue Streaks puts up a lot of points, but you guys have been very strong at keeping strong offensive teams like Center and others to, a touchdown or 2, if even that. So when you guys look at a team like JCU, is it important to kind of get those first couple of 3 and outs rolling to sort of set the tone of the game, just to be like, okay, if you're going to score, you're going to really have to fight hard for it?
For sure, and that's what Coach Dietz put an emphasis on this week of practice is we have to come out hot, just like we did with Center. We got to stop them right from the get-go. We can't be a second half team this week. We have to come out hot, guns ablaze, and stopping the run. Obviously, that's our main MO. Nobody runs on DePauw.
So Dom, let's talk about you and the fact that I think you have 21 tackles this season, 15 unassisted, 6 assisted. I'm doing this from memory from earlier, doing my reading. But I believe you have 9.5 out of 21 tackles for loss. And I believe you have 7 sacks. And again, folks, mind you, 21 tackles, yep. And this guy, 1/3 of his tackles are sacks this season, unless somebody's really botched
2 forced
your
fumbles
stats.
too, by the way.
Yep. Good point.
Yeah.
Dom, I've never seen stats like that. And we've been doing this for, this will be 30 years come Tuesday for me, coming up. And I've never seen that level of efficiency in the backfield for a D lineman like that. So is your philosophy you only want the tackle if it's a loss? Is it just that you're living in the backfield? How is this happening? How is this playing out like this for a guy that, obviously has some good size and some good speed like you do, and some great, colleagues on that defensive unit? But, what is happening? You don't have a lot of tackles every year, it looks like, too. It's not like you're a 100-tackle guy, but you're damn efficient.
I mean, I think it started this summer. I mean, I've worked my tail off. I'm going to be honest. I've been in the gym. I worked at a gym, so I was pretty much in the gym 24 hours of the day over the summer. So I've been working, and I think it's really just built on the last 3 years, building up my confidence in my moves, confidence in learning schemes, and just confidence in my coaches knowing that they're going to put me in the right position and make these plays. So I I try not to look at the stats, and I just try and take a step back and think of it's not just me, it's everybody on the team, coaches involved.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to go step back a little bit and then get to present day. But I'm curious, Dom, what was it like for you guys over last year's offseason when it was announced that John Carroll would be joining the conference? And has this been a game that you guys have been kind of looking forward to? It's like, oh, something new, here for the Tigers to sink their teeth into, or has it just been, it's another game on the schedule that we got to win, and then we're on to the next one?
It's definitely exciting having a team of John Carroll's caliber, but I mean, it was just really it definitely is a treat having a team like that in our conference now. And but I'm gonna say this: we prepared for this game just like any other game. We try not to give any team too much or too little. We know that what we have prepared is what's going to happen, and it doesn't matter who we're playing, whether that be Oberlin, John Carroll, Wabash. We're going to prepare the same way and go out there guns a blazing.
Well, it's a big game. Let's not kid ourselves on
It's
this.
it's definitely a big game.
The improvement that I think John Carroll brings to that conference is important, because it was Wabash, it was DePauw, and maybe Wittenberg for some period in the past, but they're falling. We'll put it back on the screen for those folks that want to look down as I'm saying it. Wittenberg, not the same team they were, let's say, 10 years ago in my mind. But John Carroll just brings something special, obviously, in their tradition of winning and everything else. So, it's good to see this happening for your conference for sure. How do you? This is one of those things that we see with Randolph-Macon, with Hampton-Sydney. We see it with Union, with RPI. We see it with Ithaca and Cortland, although they're not conference rivals anymore. How do you put that Wabash game out of your mind? Because it's something huge. Okay, I was there for it, and it means everything to you guys and to them ultimately. How do you kind of remove that from your head? I know the 1-0 and one game at a time thing and everything else, but how easy is it to just get that game out of your head in week 7? That's just less than a month away now. What do you do, or how do you go about it, and with your teammates for that matter, to make sure you're not looking ahead to something like that when it comes to moments like these?
I think it's really just important to take it one game at a time, one play at a time, one practice at a time. And I think that really allows you to live in the moment and not really focus on what's ahead or what we need to do to prepare for somebody 3, 4 weeks out. But I think really just making sure that we make every week a championship week, and that's what Coach Dietz really preaches and really harps on, is that every week's a championship week. Even with last week being our bye week, that was a championship week, even though we had nobody to play.
Well, Tom, but you kind of stayed close to home, and it's funny. I had this plan to ask this question, but then I pulled up your bio, and the answer is right there. It's like why I chose DePauw, because I believe it was the best fit for me academically, financially, and athletically. You're from Indy originally. You went to Cathedral High School, but would be just kind of, other than the very succinct and good answer that you gave there, just tell us a little bit about what brought you to DePauw, and then kind of looking ahead, any plans sort of post football for you.
Yeah, I mean, I chose DePauw. I mean, it was my only offer coming out of high school, and I took a visit here, and Coach Dietz just is an incredible coach, incredible human being, and he really just made me feel at home while I was here on my visit. And I think the coaching staff here is one of the best in the country, if not the best. And I just couldn't see myself anywhere else. And it's just an incredible place to be, honestly. And then for what I'm doing after college, for now, I am planning to take a gap year and work as a strength and conditioning coach at Genesis Sports Performance. And then hopefully saving
Okay.
up some money there. And then that'll allow me to go to grad school and either be a PT or chiropractor.
All right.
His major is
sounds good.
kinesiology, so he's putting it to good use there for sure, and obviously building his own body along the way, as he told us about earlier in this interview. Dom, I like I said, it was a great experience to get out to Indiana last year for that game. Not sure if I'm going to be able to get there, at least in the regular season, but who knows what happens in the playoffs if you guys continue winning, because I've saved up those airline points for a reason a little bit here this year. I've gotten to some great games without having to use those points necessarily, so we'll see how this goes down the line. But we want to give you the opportunity for shout-outs to any family, friends, teammates, etc. Dom Seibal, as we've learned here today, the floor is yours for shout-outs.
I guess I'll shout out my mom. Thank you, Mom, for giving me the opportunity to play football, giving me the opportunity to be here at DePauw, being my supporter through everything. I love you, Mom. Thank you.
Look at that. We just focus in on Mom. Are you Italian, Dom? I know you go, it's Dominic is the full name. What's your background?
Yeah. I'm not Italian, but we did go to Italy my freshman year, and that was incredible. But I do have a lot
Cool.
of family friends, and I've been around a lot of Italian descent. So
Yeah, me
I've been
too.
engrossed in the culture.
That
You
love of
haven't lived
Mom.
until you had dinner with the Rossi family. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, well, the love of Mom rubbed off on you, because that's a very Italian thing, is that tunnel vision toward Mom. My dad could do everything he wants, but it's still Mom at the end of the day, and
It's the matriarch.
don't let her know. I think otherwise either. Dom, great meeting you here, and best of luck in this game versus John Carroll. We don't pick sides in these games, but we do want to just say a great game overall, and so we wish that for both teams. Dom Seibal, have a great day, and thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Seibal.
Dom.
Hey.
Number 97.
Yeah, by no means a small guy.
You know what I just
out
noticed,
there.
Frank?
What's that?
You were talking about his like tackles for loss and all this stuff. In 5 games this season, he's already gone. Well, he's almost matched the number of solo tackles that he had in his first 3 years of playing combined. The guy's just been a beast out there, and really is a big reason why this defense is one of the best in the country.
But again, 21 and 7. 21 tackles, 7 sacks, 9.5 for loss, I think it was. That's just crazy. I don't think I've ever seen that in a stat line before for a season. We're half a season in. It's not like it was, 2 games and just an anomaly. This is the way the guy plays. And so, kudos to him for that.
He's really leveled
JB,
up.
we got to go through the rest of Region 4. I've got to put out a notice that our school district went into secure lockout mode because of the goings-on. Well, they're doing it as precaution, so, no new information, but keeping the kids safe. And so I'm going to put that out while you tell folks about the undercard in Region 4, which includes the game that was last night we talked about earlier, Trine Olivet.
Yep. So the Thunder rolled to a big win, and so they're sitting at 2-1 in the MIAA, which is turning out to be one of the stronger conferences in the country right now. We covered that in our Wednesday Crunch Time show. One of the top 3 conferences from a MPI perspective. But looking across the rest of Region 4, kind of like I was saying before, some interesting haves versus have-nots, although maybe we're not giving this game enough credit, Frank. The Adrian-Calvin matchup, I mean, Calvin was just beaten so soundly by Alma. I think it sort of took the wind out of the Knights' sails a little bit, because they were rolling there for a while. The Bulldogs with Noah Boudry have looked great. It seems like this could be a close game, or it could be Adrian running away with it. So the records, 5-0 versus 4-1, normally would have gotten it up on the top half here, but I just think the performance by Calvin against Alma was just a bit of a red flag. So they end up on this lower level here. Mount Union Heidelberg could be interesting. I know the Student Princes have a strong running game, and Ty Pullman, their quarterback, can throw the ball. But this Mikey Mahoney is blown up as now that kick, that block where he pancaked a guy on that rollout run has been getting a lot of national press. So Mount Union is looking very strong overall, and so they'll be a heavy favorite, not surprisingly. Capital Ohio Northern is a pretty good OAC game. St. Joe's Bluffton has an impact on the outcome of the Heartland. Bluffton is kind of quietly flying under the radar. We'll see if they end up being a playoff team down the road. Same thing with Hanover. They should have a pretty easy win there against Anderson. Marietta Muskingum is always a good matchup between those OAC rivals. Maybe Otterbein can get their first win against Wilmington. We'll see. Kalamazoo is taking on Hope. Basically, the Flying Dutchman need to win out and then hope that, pun intended, that Alma loses, and that will help them potentially get that Pool A bid because of the controversial loss that they had earlier in the season. And last but not least, Denison Wittenberg, another NCAC game. And that's it for Region 4.
Region 5. Our guests will be joining us soon from Region 5, involved in this Concordia Aurora game. And I'll put it up right now, actually. I think for folks to understand the magical season that's been going on for this team, I had to reprogram our AI on team schedules because it wasn't handling double overtime games correctly. But I don't know of many teams that have had to win 2 overtime games this season. And they beat Benedictine 28-20 in double OT, and they beat Lakeland 41-34 in overtime last week. Now, the win against Benedictine is pretty important because they are 5-1 still, despite that loss. And we've added now, as you can see, the current standings for the opponents, so folks can get a good look at what they did do in the gauntlet they've played so far. Lakeland, though, not so much. Obviously, only a one-win team. Maybe they were being caught looking ahead at that Aurora game. It was a trophy game against Lakeland. So the Cheese Bowl, I want to say, was the name of it.
The Cheese Bowl.
Yep. So I do pay attention to these things, and our guest is about ready to join us here, so good to see him there. We'll ask him if he ate any of the cheese in the Cheese Bowl. I'm not sure what really is entailed by the Cheese Bowl, but we'll find out, I'm sure. But you can see that Aurora coming up is a big game, and they've had an interesting season, those 2 early losses, but they've also come back now to a 4-2 record. Ripon and Chicago is the other Region 5 game of note in the featured box here. And that 4-1, 4-0 start's important, but Ripon, if they want to stay alive in the MWC, needs to win the game. So we'll see how that one plays out. Definitely a featured game that we should be paying attention to there. JB, I'm not sure if you've got your guitar nearby, but we've sort of, we might want to get ready for it. We've kind of abused this guy's name. We apologize to him in advance. He's smiling, so maybe he's taking a good humor. I hope he is
I'm sure
enjoying
that
some of this
if
ride.
you grew up with the last name of Funk, you've probably had, a few comments over the years. I'm
nodding.
sure he's not fazed by it. Hey, Roman.
Roman Funk joining us. Good, sophomore quarterback. So, Roman, first things first, thanks for joining us again. But, looking at your stat card and whatnot, I realized that you played 4 games last year, but you've been called a sophomore again this year. I'm going to assume this is a redshirt scenario based on medical. But take us through what you've been through over the last year that got you to this point where we can talk about you so much, because you've been definitely a part of our crunch time clips, and Concordia has been definitely following that fact, sharing our stuff along the way. But what happened last year, and how did you get back this year to the degree you're back this year for sure?
Yeah, so going into the year, I was the starting quarterback. I played the first 4 games. The 4th game was against Aurora. I ended up breaking my radius and my ulna in my left arm. Snapped them completely. I ended up getting surgery on those. I played 6 screws on each bone. At some point, it was like, how much do I really want to come back and play football? Eventually, came back, did all the rehab, came back, did spring ball, and now here we are, fought back, and excited to continue this going.
So, Roman, one of the things that jumped out at me, other than the games that you guys have been winning and the stats you've been putting up, is that you're from Horizon High School in Scottsdale, Arizona. Scottsdale is a place I've been to a few times in my life, and I think I bought my first pair of cowboy boots there many years ago. It's a beautiful town. And how does a guy from Arizona end up all the way in Wisconsin? I'd love to hear that story.
Yeah, it was really a shocker to me too. I'm still getting used to the cold weather. Obviously, Arizona's a warm weather state, but in high school I obviously played football and played a little bit of basketball, but really locked in on football and wanted the chance to continue to play football. And obviously I came on a visit here, and I loved the coaching staff and I loved the campus, and it was just a great group of guys. So really felt like it was a home for me, and so here I am.
Roman, take us through this season because, again, Concordia is a team that we started talking about back in spring of 2021 a little bit, when we were kind of looking for any football we could during the COVID spring season that was going on. And the irony is, it's one of the first times I heard your play-by-play announcer when I was grabbing the clips this week, who actually, we had that big game versus Wisconsin Lutheran back in 2021 that he called with the Hail Mary and everything else. It was actually good to hear his voice again. You guys have a quality play-by-play guy, and make sure you send that back to him. I'm not sure his name, but he does a great job. But this team wasn't really on our radar this year, in the NAC. Obviously, Aurora is generally there. They've had some interesting trip-ups. It's been a fun season in that conference, but you guys are standing tall right now, and what's led to this? What's gotten better, especially in that offense where you guys put up, I want to say, 41 in that overtime game last week? And, can you continue this against a team that you admit you got injured to last year, Aurora last year, in that injury, but now you're playing a little bit later in the season, I think, this year. And, what's changed here that makes this team legit?
Yeah, I think going into the year, like you talked about, we weren't talked about. We were an underdog. We were doubted in the conference. And I think we have a great group of senior leaders, a great group of coaches that we've put our trust into. And I think that we believe in ourselves more than anyone else does. And we know what we can do. And each and every day we've built on that, as well as, this week, yeah, it's a big game, but we got to do our part. So we'll see what happens.
Well, one of the things, and it was funny, I was waiting for one of my kids to finish up shopping when I was in Manhattan last weekend, and I had the game on the phone. I'm like sitting there watching the end of the cheese ball, being like, what's going to happen here? But it did seem like, and obviously we've had some fun, saying we want the funk in our highlights of you throwing passing touchdowns. But it seemed to me in a way that, and you were there, so you can speak to it better than I can, but it seemed like at the end of this game, you kind of needed the defense to make a stop and get the win, and they did. It was obviously they've given up some points here and there, little bend, don't break type of thing. But what was it like for you guys on the offensive side? You had, little ups and downs. You had put up a lot of yards, a couple turnovers though. But what was it like to see like the defense come through and come up with that, that turnover at the end to win it?
Yeah, I mean, we really haven't played a full game of good offense. So we're still looking to do that. Get a couple good quarters, a couple good halves, but we can still play a good full game. But we have full faith in our defense. It's been like that since I've been here. Defense has been our key point. And I know the guys on there, I know how much they work and all the hard work they put into it. So really wasn't that nervous about it. I know what they can do, so.
Okay, Roman, I got to ask you, we probably had you guys on crunch time 3 or 4 times in the 6 weeks of the season. We have clearly played with your name. JB played the guitar a couple times and everything else. Did somebody call to your attention that we were absolutely abusing you on this show? And I mean, what was your reaction to, hearing, if you did hear about this, what was your reaction to it out of curiosity? And do you forgive us for this sin against your name?
Oh, I absolutely forgive you. I love it. I tell you guys, keep on using it. But first time I think was my mom sent me a Twitter link that had the clip of it, and I was like, oh, this is great. My mom loved it. My family loved it. But no, keep on using it. It's great.
We want the funk, folks, and we got the funk tonight right there. JB, we're out of the doghouse, it sounds like, for once. That's good news, at least.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, Roman, looking at this upcoming matchup, it's funny. We've always talked about sort of like this, the syllogistic elements of like, Team A plays Team B plays Team C, right? So you guys beat Benedictine in an overtime game, which we put on our show because it was a great finish. Aurora lost to Benedictine in week 3, which kind of caught a lot of people off guard. And then, you guys go to the wire with Wakeland, last weekend, but Aurora beats them by 21 in week 5. So I guess, for the fans, I mean, what kind of game, should we expect? I mean, obviously, playing at Aurora, it's a road trip for you guys, business trip. How do you kind of take the home crowd out of it and sort of just, records aside, just go out there and do your thing?
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about, we know who Aurora played in the past and what happened, but it doesn't change this week at all. We got to go into it with open minds and knowing that we got to compete to win this game. Yeah, it's an away game. It's going to be a tough crowd, be a good environment, good football environment. I think we're all excited to go there. But yeah, I mean, what happened in the past doesn't really mean anything. We got to go in there and play our game. And like I just said before, if we can play a full offensive game and really do what we want to do, I think we got a good chance.
Okay, I think you are one of 4 or 5 kids. I want to say 4 kids in the Funk family. Is that accurate there?
Yep, 4.
4. Okay, so you are the youngest according to your bio. Okay, as the youngest of 3, and I was the mistake 12 and a half years later, so I don't know what the proximity is for you. But, were you always kind of the butt of, getting told what to do by the olders? Were you considered favorite child status because you were last in this whole thing? What was it like growing up as the youngest of 4 in the Funk household?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you said, I think if you ask my siblings, I was definitely the favorite child. I'd get things my way a lot of the time, and I'm also very blessed to have a family and a great group of parents. But growing up, yeah, I was always trying to compete with them, whether it was pickup basketball, pool basketball, flag football in the yard, whatever it was. I was always competing with them, wanting to be my big brothers. So my big brothers and big sister were always great to me, and I'm really grateful for all of them.
That's a great diplomatic answer, since Thanksgiving is not that far away, and
he can handle anything because he's already faced adversity in his childhood.
Exactly. JB, why don't you give him an opportunity to say hello and give a shout out to those folks?
Yeah. Well, yeah, Roman, since you've seen our show a few times, you probably know what's coming up next. We like to give the student athletes who join us the opportunity to give any shout outs to family, friends, coaches, teammates, whomever, whether they're in Arizona, Wisconsin, or elsewhere. The floor is yours, Roman Funk.
Yeah, I just want to first off shout out the football team, so Falcons. We got a big game this week, and then shout out my mom and dad, Keanu, and Logan, Chelsea, and then my good friends Noah Anderson and Vincent Valentino.
JB is working something out here. I kind of saw what it was in my preview screen. He's losing his earpiece. However, he's if he unmutes, I think we're going to be able to hear this. He's got to unmute though.
Man, I was like, I'm like the wire. This isn't quite long enough to. And I dropped the earpiece, but here we go.
You got to sing it too, JB. Come on. I ain't singing it.
Yeah, I did see George Clinton and the the Funk All Stars back in college, but in the day, and they did play that song. I played that song with my band in the past. The We Want the Funk, Give Up the Funk now. So
Roman's like
there
it.
you go.
Yep.
Roman, we appreciate you joining us as JB plays us out apparently on this interview, but we appreciate you joining us. We appreciate Concordia because we don't get out there as much, and I'm looking to maybe get Midwest one more time before the regular season's out, so we'll see where I land in that process. But it's great to have relationships with teams that aren't in our normal wheelhouse here, and being able to present the stories and the accomplishments of teams like yours. Yeah, you may not win a national championship. We get it, that the NAC isn't known for that, but you guys are playing important football nonetheless, and that's part of what this show is about, part of why we wanted to showcase you. Not just the name. You are an excellent football player, and your team is an excellent team. So thanks for joining us, and thanks for all the love from Wisconsin to us.
Yep, thank you guys. I really appreciate you having me on here.
No problem. Roman Funk joining us from Concordia, Wisconsin.
It's funny when you brought up that whole 2001 spring season, because I think that was really the springboard
2021
for where we are now. Yeah, yep. I mean, because for a long time we were just kind of Liberty League, and then East Region, and then COVID rolls around, and we're like, no one else is talking about this. Maybe we should. And so, we got to see some of these games. I'm going
to go a step further than that. People are douching on the idea, to put it lightly, of playing football at all in that realm. Okay? And we were the ones out there basically trying to find every freaking way to make sure that those student athletes could play. And you know what? History proved us right on our approach on this. The science or revisionist science that's come out since that point has proven us right about what we were saying in that 6-month period that led up to that. And so you're right, nobody was, and we were the ones that wanted to really bring forward the fact that there were people playing football and they needed to receive the kudos for it. Yeah, it was okay. Yeah. Somebody might have gotten, COVID. We get it in the process. But, we learned, I think, in now retrospect, that it wasn't a death sentence to younger and healthy folks at all. And that's what college football players are, ultimately. They wouldn't be playing the sport if not for the fact that they're younger, healthier type of folks out there. So, you know what? We learned a lot about our show, ourselves, and other teams out there. And that's what makes us able, I think, at this point to bring up the fact that we didn't talk about the other games in Region 5, which we never would have said back then because it wasn't Region 5 back then either. It was the West region, but that's a whole other story. Or part of the West and North probably. I think they chunked it up a little bit. But anyway, other games, North Park trying to take their shot at North Central. Good luck to them on that. Carthage and Wheaton. Carthage with that really interesting game against Wash U last week. What was that, double overtime there that they lost to Wash U in? So Wheaton better not fall asleep on this team because I think Wash U might have, or they're just that good. Who knows? Wash U's got Elmhurst this week. Not much else exciting there that I'm seeing. Nope. And even on this page, Illinois Wesleyan, Milliken really needs that game to stay alive in any discussions of anything at this point. Region 6, obviously, Not sure why the
Tonight.
rankings didn't pull on this. Yep, the rankings are missing for Stout and Whitewater. They're both ranked teams. I'll check into why they fell off. Actually, all these fell off now. I'm looking at it for the schedule thing. I think that's why we changed it from schedule or results to schedule. We'll fix that for next week, folks. When you'll see all the rankings actually on the different things that we have shown.
I think it's this one was 25 versus 11 for
I
Stout
think it
and
was.
Whitewater.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, Lacrosse, Platteville, big game there. D1 Rejects is going to be there in the parking lot. Good luck to them on that. So I remember the days when we used to do Stag Bowl pregame shows in the parking lot, and eventually we realized it's so much better to be in the stadium and, have the backdrop of players playing or warming up and everything else. And that was, for us, the game changer that told us that that's where the real money shots are, the things that make you legitimate in the space, was to have that field behind you and to have the players featured in that thing. And we learned that good 10, 15 years ago on D3 football. So hopefully eventually they get inside more venues like they did at Bethel. But anyway, the game's a great game, obviously. Whitworth-Linfield could be for the Northwest Conference title for sure. Key game there. I'm picking Chapman-Cal Lutheran. I'm calling this the put-up or shut-up game because we've gotten a lot of flack that our poll has not captured Cal Lutheran the way that you would assume most 5-0 teams would be in the top 40. We admit that, but, this game, if they are able to beat Chapman...
I mean,
go ahead.
look at who they played. I mean, they barely beat a 0-4 Laverne team by 4 points. They've, barely scraped by against some pretty mediocre teams, so... Yeah, I agree with you. If the Kingsmen are really legit, then they should be able to either beat or at least stay close to Chapman. If Chapman blows them out, then that argument goes out the window.
Other games in Region 6, plenty of them here. St. John's Concordia Moorhead is a big game too, for sure. But we've got to see what Concordia Moorhead is made of. I think that's a schedule scenario for them as well, that they haven't necessarily scheduled the world beaters yet. So we'll see how they handle a team like St. John's. But it's at Concordia Moorhead, folks, so keep that in mind. Looking down the rest, Pacific Pac Lutheran. I thought Pacific might do better this season, but you know what, Pac Lutheran, if they want to stay undefeated and still be relevant in this whole thing, they've got to win this game. As we've pointed out, Whitworth and Linfield is part of that equation in the Northwest Conference. Pomona, Pitzer, and Redlands important. Both teams have been beaten by Chapman, and obviously that means that the loser of this game is going to be behind the 8 ball for the possible championship game coming up. So they need to both win this, and obviously only one's going to. Or they could get a tie. We've learned that that's possible too in this whole thing. So there you go. That is our preview of the Week 7 schedule. JB, wanted to talk a little bit. Folks may have seen some of the back and forth about NPI and what we call down there the crew conundrum. If you remember last year, a 5-2 Mary Hardin Baylor, based on countable games, got into the playoffs, and it was a little controversial. And we all lived to fight another day on that. And they went 4 rounds in the playoffs. We get it. So maybe it was legitimate and everything. But that last year they beat Wisconsin Whitewater in that process. It lost to Hart and Simmons twice. To be 5-2 this season, they would have to beat Hart and Simmons, and if they don't get the automatic bid, which means they would have to win by 27 or more points to have the chance at the automatic bid against Hart and Simmons. So if they win by less than 27, then they would have to still wait for a Pool C bid, I believe. And I believe Hart and Simmons, if they remained undefeated for their other ASC games, would get the automatic bid is the way it would work. But last year, we want to talk about the shortcomings of NPI. Here's what it is, folks. Okay, every one of those games except for 1/10 of the Howard Payne game counted because they didn't have enough games to throw out any of their wins. They had 5.1 wins through the adjusted wins number. So what does NPI do? NPI is an average of your NPI scores from your various games. Losses are dogged because you automatically lose 40 points by not winning. or you don't get the 40 points by not winning. Winning gives you a 40-point boost to start, and then you look at the team's strength of schedule. If you win, you get a bonus. If they're a top-ranked team, in the top like third or half of the grouping, depending on where the line is each year. And then you figure out they were home or away, win or loss. I'm not going to get into all that because it's going to go way over your head. But what it does is it averages each one of those game scores into what you see there, the 63,991. So people ask, why doesn't a team that's 8-2 get any better treatment than this 5-2 team? And the answer is because they too are probably just being judged on 7 games or whatever, maybe 8 games, but they don't get any credit for winning 8 games. It's just an average. MPI is nothing but an average of the teams you played. So you could play 7 teams of countable games, you could play 10 accountable games, and it doesn't matter. It's all based on average. And that's what the whole problem is in this realm, that there is no rhyme or reason to how it works in a realistic fashion, okay? You play more games, you win more games, you should have a certain edge. It doesn't work in NPI. And so we did ask the question and got about 80% response in a positive way with respect to, I don't have the ability to put it on screen right now, but 80% of folks said that there should be a minimum countable win cutoff for at-large teams of 6 wins or 7+ wins. Okay, that was kind of split where the line should be. But a lot of folks like me think 6 is the correct number. So that 5-2 Mary Harlan Baylor would not get into the future.
Just
6, I think. 6 would be kind of the 6-3, 6-4 mentality, which I think is still a team that's viable. I don't think a 5-2 or 5-3 team is viewed as viable unless they're beating number 1 teams all along, but that's not realistic. They're in a conference. You don't schedule that way. It's just not going to schedule out that way for them. So, Mary Harlan Baylor, if they do this, will have beaten 3 teams with a total 5 win number. That's what happened last year. They beat ETBU twice, Howard Payne twice, and Whitewater last year. This year would be ETBU and Howard Payne again twice, and Hardin-Simmons once if they were to go 5-2. I'm not comfortable with that scenario. I don't see how we can look at it, and I don't think that it sets the right standard out there for teams that are trying to schedule D3 games against D3 opponents. But that's a conundrum. What do you do with them? Because the system, the way it's set up currently, throughout all sports, forgives this kind of thing. In football, it sticks out like a sore thumb because we don't have enough games going on. And that's what we call the crew conundrum at this point. How do you handle this in the future? What would you do if you had your druthers, to make a change related to this in the whole MPI world that we live in now?
I would throw it out and go back to the way we had it before MPI.
Say it ain't so.
That's what I would do. Yeah.
Well,
I know the racks and some of that stuff wasn't perfect, but at least there was some subjective and human element to it, and the coaches. And obviously there were some coaches or people on those committees that were either accused or allegedly had certain agenda things and were trying to maneuver teams from their conferences or whatever, that kind of thing. But I don't think that this system is, the one positive is at least like we found out last year, once the last games on the final Saturday was over, it's like, oh, there's the playoff pairings. It's like right there. Like there's no guesswork. There's no nothing. It's like, okay, this team is 1, this team is 40. There you go. And then it's just the only mystery is what's the bracket going to look like, and is the NCAA going to be cheap and pair up games because of flights and all that kind of thing. So,
or have teams that should be off in week 1 playing in week 1 of the playoffs, which was I think 2 teams got screwed by that one last year unnecessarily.
Did, yeah.
Yep. So that's the stuff that just needs to go away in this whole thing. Let's take a look at some interesting conference standings before we get to our picks and. We'll start with the MASCAC. I'm going to be going to that Plymouth State Anna Maria game. Obviously, Framingham State undefeated still. But if Anna Maria were able to knock off Plymouth State, then suddenly Framingham State's got a very, very different road ahead of them. Unless, if Anna Maria loses, then basically it's a clear out for Plymouth State, Framingham State to be the MASCAC championship game, most likely in week, I want to say they may be a week 11 scenario. I don't have it in front of me, but later in the season. So there's that. Landmark's interesting, JB. Look at WestCon still sticking there. Yeah, they had that big loss to New Haven, which is a D1 FCS. But ignore that for a minute. This game against Lycoming, important because, if they can keep rolling up wins, that Susquehanna game they'll have soon, could they somehow knock off?
It's only their second conference game, and it's week 7.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, welcome to Landmark with only 7 teams. That's the way it's playing out there. Because of that fact.
And just a quick thing, the Framingham Plymouth State game is November 11th or week 9, actually.
10. That's 10
weeks. Well, we go to the 15th, so anyway, whatever.
You said November 11th or 1st?
1st.
Oh, okay, that is week 9. Then you said 11th, so that's what threw me there. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So week 9. Okay. So right around the corner, a couple of weeks, like you said. Here's the Empire 8 standings. Fisher and Cortland looks like they're on a collision course
just like
right
we
now.
predicted.
Yeah. Yeah. St. John, Fisher, and Cortland. That was the game I was thinking I was going to be attending instead of Brockport, Cortland. Which look at the logjam of 1-loss teams. That's why Brockport's dropped so far down that list. It's just a logjam going on there. And it's alphabetical when they don't have a head-to-head to distinguish against. So, they're tied for 4th, basically. But, it's only a 1-loss scenario that's making them 4th there. Conference in New England, attending the Endicott versus Western New England game on Saturday evening. But Curry, look at what Todd Parsons and his crew have done. 4-1, 2-0. Legitimate contenders coming up for Endicott. But Endicott's got a big one this weekend. Western New England will not be easy. Though I believe it's like their homecoming or some kind of important weekend there because I was told, don't show up early, you won't find parking. So I said that's no problem, but good indication what's going on. Centennial Conference, Johns Hopkins and Franklin and Marshall. Again, just how we drew this up for everybody here.
Yeah.
The heck with Muhlenberg and Carnegie Mellon being in this conversation right now. But your Sinus at 1 loss against Johns Hopkins. And I was saying to somebody yesterday, your Sinus is one of those teams. They're just scrappy as hell, and a team like Hopkins should be concerned going into this game. They should not take this lightly. I know they're not, but this team could beat them if the conditions are right. And so keep your eye on that game tomorrow, folks. We'll predict it possibly here. I'm not sure, but it'll be an interesting game to say the least. ASC, it's Hardin Simmons to lose at this point. That's all you need to look at there. And the ARC. Wartburg Central's next week. And so getting there, obviously, there's some games to be played here against Loras and Nebraska Wesleyan. So obviously just tune-up games for both of those teams. But your conference is hanging in the balance next week for all intents and purposes. I say Wartburg Central coming up next week. And that's all I got for interesting conference races to watch right now. With the WEAC, obviously, we've talked about ad nauseum, so I didn't want to go there too much. But what are your last thoughts before we head into our predictions here about the entire landscape? I know you've been saying it's North Central Mount Union, but is anything changing your thoughts on that?
Nah, not really. I think there could be, depending on pairing, some interesting opportunities for teams like DePauw or Wartburg to make pretty deep runs. We'll see there. But looking ahead to this weekend, like I said, I mean, there are a handful of some really good, if not great games, but there's out of these 111 that we have left, I'd say more than 50 or 60% of them are kind of So it'll be easy to kind of focus in on, the 10 or so, pretty good ones. And there'll be a few that'll surprise us. There's always some games that sort of come out of nowhere where we're like, oh, we've got cover that because it's got a crazy ending or some kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
I forgot to do our upper third for our standings, but you are up on me by 2 games right now. And so, yep, just 2. It's makeable here. I could come back in 20 games on a 2-game deficit. I mean, if one game
easily,
flipped last week, we were tied. That's how it works, where we disagreed.
Yep.
So that's how the razor thin it still is. Picking 120 games, we're only 2 apart. So let's see what happens here. Put up the first game, I believe, in a second here. There we go. And then we play some music. We're full service here. We don't just play guitar. We've got, the trumpets in the background and everything else. Anna Maria at Plymouth State. I'm going to this game. I guess I'll start for once in my life here. I'm going to say that, Anna Maria is one of those teams that is just slippery as hell out there. But I'm going to say Plymouth State being the home team up in New Hampshire. I'm excited to see this. I've never been to a New Hampshire Division III game ever. I'll put it that way to you, because there ain't many teams in New Hampshire playing Division III football. But
No.
We'll see how this goes. It'll be cold probably, but I'll say Plymouth State does hold home court here by a 27-21 score.
Yeah, I agree. Having watched a bunch of Plymouth State games over the years, like they're the kind of team that just sort of likes to run the ball, keep the clock rolling, and that's how you beat teams like Anna Maria with these more explosive offenses. So yeah, I'll take a ground and pound Panthers higher scoring game. Let's say like 35-27.
Okay. Merchant Marine, Salve Regina. Interesting lineup after what happened last week to Merchant Marine for sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Bubba Mustaine magic sort of didn't pan out for them, and so that really makes me scratch my head. And I guess I'm going to go with Salve. They're at home. It's going to be that sort of the Newport magic. I think it's going to be a low-scoring defensive game. It could come down to a field goal. So yeah, I'll take the Seahawks like 17-14 in a close one.
We do have to move a little fast here, only because 10:30s are a hard cut on this show. Salve Regina, I think, will win this game by a 31-28 score. Kevin Gilmartin's going to be upset to hear that we picked them.
Yeah, he will.
Here we go. We got the rankings up on these. Endicott hosting Western New England. I'm going to give the edge to Endicott, despite the fact I had talked up Western New England so much. I think it's just so tough to play beach ball over there in Beverly. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be shocked if the result were the other way, because Western New England is that kind of team too. But Endicott, I think, has the home field advantage enough to win this game. I went for 24-17 in this game.
I think it'll be a little more lopsided, but I'll go with the Gulls 35-17.
Misericordia Stevenson, do you believe in Misericordia?
I guess you kind of have to, but what happened to Stevenson last Friday? I don't get it. So I'm going to go with the Cougars, just with the hope that maybe that they're the team this year. But it would not surprise me if the Mustangs rolled. Cougars 35-31.
I don't think Coach is going to let this team lose 2 in a row at home. I'm going to give Stevenson the nod on this one for our first difference today by the final score of 34-20. Important game in the MAC for sure. Let's just be clear about that. Williams at Bates. Boy, after the week last weekend in that game and the way it played out and everything else, I've got to give Coach Raymond the advantage still here. I think Williams has a special team this year. I don't understand how they tripped up the way they did early on. It's been a weird season for this conference for sure. I'm going to give Williams the edge in this one. Sorry, Coach. By the final score of 27-20.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the football coach who can probably bench more than I can. Although he did say that he sort of backed off in the last few years, so maybe I can outbench him. I don't know. I'll go with the Eves, 35-27.
Thank you, Dad Bat Van Halen, for that reassurance. Your sign is Johns Hopkins. Go ahead.
I think after last weekend, Hopkins is going to have to get the cobwebs out and sort of step it up a notch. Your Sinus is going to give them a good run for their money, but I'll take Hopkins and Bay Harvey, particularly making plays to get the win in this one, say 35-17.
I think we're going to see some scoring for sure. I'm going to go for the same exact score, 35-17, actually, is where I was going with it. So good job there. Franklin Marshall versus Dickinson. You know what? If the Diplomats can beat Muhlenberg on the road, why can't they beat Dickinson on the road? I'm going to give the Dips the advantage on this one by a final score of, it's been fun football there, so I'll say 37-30.
I think the Dips will win a little more convincingly, let's say 28-17. 14.
Fair enough. I'll not even get more convincing as I switch screens here. Alfred at Cortland. Could the Saxons do what I don't know if they can do or not here, which is upset an upstart right now like Cortland? Go ahead.
Well, their quarterback, Kelly, is experienced, but yeah, I'm going to go with the home team. I'll say they'll win this one 42-21.
Yeah, 40-17 was where I was going to go with it, so about the same score on that one. Okay, big game here. Brevard at LaGrange. I don't know what to make of Brevard lately, but LaGrange at home in this scenario, I'm going to give them the edge. 4-1 is not an accident at this point. Neither is 5-0 for Cal Lutheran, don't get me wrong, guys. But, again, it is who you play. But Brevard has had its ups and downs here, and so I'm going to say LaGrange wins this game 31-30 in a really, really exciting game.
Yeah, I mean, they had that one really lopsided loss to Barry, but in retrospect, maybe it's not such the end of the world. They've rattled off some wins, and yeah, like you said, the Tornadoes have been a little hot and cold. So yeah, I think I'm going to play it safe and stick with the Panthers also, but it'll be close, like a 31-30 nail-biter.
Shenandoah Roanoke. Good luck on this one, bud.
Boy. I'm just going to go with Coach Yoder, former Hobart guy, that the Hornets just, with more experience, a more experienced roster, that they can pull it off. So I'll go with Coach Yo. Closer game, 28-24.
Roanoke, I like your story. I'm picking it. Home team wins this one in Salem Stadium, which I know very well from all the Stag Bowls there over the years, by a final score of 27-20 on that one. We've got Hardin Simmons at ETBU, and I'm going to tell you that it's Hardin Simmons in this game. I just don't trust ETBU to be able to, do enough here. They look decent against Mary Hardin Baylor, but what does that mean right now? Hardin Simmons is the class of the conference. They win by a final score of 37-17.
Yeah, well, Hardin Simmons has, in my opinion, a Gallardi Trophy semi or maybe finalist candidate in Noah Garcia. He's a great running back. Feed him the ball and win this game 42-17. Easy.
The NCAC potential championship game here this early, who knows? But John Carroll at DePauw. Go ahead.
Yeah, strength versus strength. I'm going to go with the DePauw defense and Dom Seibal, who we talked to earlier. They just have been able to shut down some good teams. I mean, Carroll is going to score probably the most points that DePauw has allowed all season, but I think the Tigers can come away with this one like 28-21.
Yeah, I mean, if DePauw can punch with Johns Hopkins last year, essentially, and John Carroll lost to Johns Hopkins this season, and the composition of the team this year for, Hopkins may be the difference maker with Bay Harvey back, I get that, but I think we learned a little bit about maybe DePauw is legit in this type of scenario, and that John Carroll is definitely going to be the road dog for a reason, too. I give DePauw the edge as a result of all that. 27-24 in a really good game. I wish I could attend this one, but unfortunately, it's not happening. Rose Holman at Baldwin Wallace. I think Baldwin Wallace is for real right now. I think they win this game 41-20.
Yeah, I think Yeah, the Yellow Jackets are going to fly away with this one, 48-14.
Got to play some speed ball here, so let's go. Albion, go ahead.
Scots win 45-35.
Yeah, St. John is, I think, legit about making sure they don't trip up again here. Alma wins 30-17. Concordia, Wisconsin, Aurora. Boy, I want to pick the Funk so bad on this one.
I know, right?
Don Beebe did some shuffling at quarterback. We know about it, and it seems to be working. I'm going to pick Aurora, but obviously we have a certain level of whatever here for the Funkster. Aurora wins 34-30 in a good game.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's something a little bit off with this Aurora team, but I'm going to go for the underdog. What the hell? I mean, we already have a couple differences. I might need this one. So go Falcons, 41-34 in overtime, just like last week.
Good for you. Yeah. Ripping Chicago. Give it to Chi-Town all the time on a situation like this. Chicago. I'm going to say 21-17 in a close, low-scoring game. Lower scoring.
Yep. I'll take the Maroons by 3 touchdowns.
Stout Whitewater, there's your rankings for this game we were talking about. Go ahead.
I'll take the home team. I think they're going to be upset about what happened the last time at the Perk, so they're going to really push hard to close this one out and do so with authority. I'll take Whitewater winning 35-17.
With all due respect to Jimmy Martin, I don't think Adam Moen is going to be able to get them over the top on this one. So I'm going to pick Whitewater as well, 31-24. Lacrosse Platteville, on the other hand, I think Lacrosse is the cream of this conference right now, and that could be interesting if they do beat everybody. The number of losses we'll be seeing in the teams on the underside of this, that could push some teams into that third loss where they'll be perilously close to the cutoff line on either side of it, depending on who they are. So I'm going to say Lacrosse wins. Higher scoring, 34-24.
Yeah, I'll take the Eagles 35-21.
Whitworth, Linfield, go.
Wildcats 35-17.
Yeah, I'm more of a believer in Linfield this season than Whitworth, I'll be honest. I was going to say 35-20, actually, so there you go. And finally, Chapman at Cal Lutheran. Chapman's just on a roll here, and I think they've got the elements on both sides of the ball that are important right now. We called out offensive and defensive players the last 2 weeks for a reason. You have Chapman the edge on the road here by a final score of 30-24.
Yeah, I'm repping my SC beat. We're going to beat the Catholics, Notre Dame, this weekend. And so for my SoCal pick of the week, Tate Zimmerman, the SCIAC Defensive Player of the Week, my Week 6 Defensive MVP, couple of sacks. Chapman wins 21-7 in SoCal.
Maybe we got
after dark.
Quickly here, we're going to do how to watch this weekend with a new format here. So go ahead. We've updated slides to get the other Friday game into its right spot here, which is Springfield WPI. But how do you watch aside from some actually decent action here tonight with those 2 games at the front of that?
Yeah, there's 3 games on tonight. They're all good. Well, the Maine Maritime, being a new program, is probably going to get thumped by the Nor'easters. So you can maybe tune in for the first quarter of that and then switch over to Springfield WPI. And then at 8, kind of must watch there with Stout and Whitewater. We have 13 games kicking off at 12, 32 at 1. There's 9 1:30 games, and then 33 at 2. So a big chunk in the first couple of hours. You'll see a lot of different options, and then it starts to trickle to like 5 at 3, 9 at 4. There's 2 at 4:30. There's 1 game at 5 p.m., which actually I think is a good one. That's the Western New England Endicott game that you're going to, Frank. And then there's a couple of 7 o'clock games between Southwestern Center, Illinois Wesleyan, and Milliken. And then you got the SoCal After Dark with Pomona, Redlands, and Chapman Cal Lutheran at 10 Eastern, 7 local.
Well handled. We are going to run late here and out of time on our recording. So we are going to say, folks, watch us on Twitter all weekend, or X, and stay tuned for a lot more coverage over the next week. We are getting back to our Tuesday schedule little by little after the travel woes for both of us the last couple of weeks here. We're trying to get back to Tuesday for Crunch Time and, of course, Friday Live. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to our guests. Thanks for everybody that helped us get the guests on at DePauw and Concordia, Wisconsin. Have a great day.